All right, it's 7:05, and I've got at least one person in the room, so I guess let's get started. Um, if at any point you have any questions, or you can't hear me, or you need me to repeat something, just toss it in the chat, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Um, so this is the Twins course on umpiring. If you're here for something else, sorry, this ain't it. The first thing to note about umpiring is that it's the most important job on the field. The game doesn't start until the umpire says so. The game ends when the umpire says so. The umpire makes every single call about every single thing on the field, and they're also the only person on the entire diamond that stands there the entire time. Even catchers are only part of half of the pitches, maybe. Umpires are part of every single pitch. Now, an umpire has three main jobs. The first is deciding on each play. So for every single play, the umpire needs to have eyes in the correct position, focusing on the correct things that let them decide whether a runner is safe or out, whether a pitch is a ball or a strike, etc. The second thing they need to do is they need to make that decision clear to everyone. Keeping everything exactly the way everybody expects it to be called is extremely important here. Being loud, decisive, all of these things are important. Everything about your presentation fuels this second aspect. And the third thing the umpire needs to do is they need to call the game. They're the person that makes sure that balls are there, that time is called, that the ball is put back in play, etc. This is all part of their job. So there's a lot to cover here, and we're probably not going to be able to cover all of it in the time frame that we have, but we're going to give it our best shot. So, first off, deciding on the play. There are three main calls that umpires need to make. The first one, the most simple one, is fair or foul. In order to get a good view on whether a ball is fair or foul, you want to set up exactly on the fair or foul line. So your nose should be splitting the fair or foul line, so you're looking directly over the base. As the home plate umpire, what that means is that you'll move from your spot at home plate just over here so that you can see directly down the third base line. And for a base umpire, if you're on the line, which is the only time you'll be calling fair or foul, you'll be exactly on the line. You'll move over a step so that you're straddling it. Now, making the fair or foul call, making that decision is based on your knowledge of the fair or foul rules. They're not the simplest of rules, but let's go over them real quick. If a ball flies in the air to the outfield, the only thing that matters is where the ball is caught. So where the ball is touched for the first time, and we only care about the ball here. We don't care about where the fielder is, or where the ball lands. So if a ball flies from home plate in the air and lands right here, that's a fair ball. If it lands here, that's a foul ball. We don't care what happens after that. If a ball hits the ground for the first time in the infield, the infield is defined as the dirt circle, but here we care more about the base paths. So if the ball lands inside the base, inside the first or third base, it becomes a fair or foul ball when it stops, is touched, or passes or hits the base. So a ball that stops right here, that's a fair ball. A ball that stops right here is a foul ball. A ball that rolls past third base here and rolls foul afterwards is a fair ball because it passed third base in fair territory. For these purposes, the foul lines are in fair territory, despite their name. So if a ball is lying partially or completely on the foul line, it is a fair ball. The bases are likewise part of fair territory. Any ball that hits a base is automatically a fair ball. Home plate is also part of fair territory, but is itself not determining. So if a ball hits home plate, you wait and see where it stops. If it stops with any part of it over home plate, it's a fair ball. The next thing that umpires have to decide is safe or out. That itself splits into several different types, but first one we're going to look at is catch no catch. In order to take a look at whether or not a ball is caught, it helps to have a good view of the fielder. The closer the better. But here, angle is more important than distance. So there are two good angles to view it at. One is directly from the side. That way you can tell whether the glove slipped under the ball or not. And the other one is directly from the front. While it makes it hard to tell whether or not the ball bounced just beforehand, it does give you a much better view of the inside of the fielder's glove. So there's a trade-off to be made there. The second one is on whether a base runner has been tagged. For a tag play, you need to make two determinations. One, whether the tag has actually been made. And two, did the base runner touch the base first? And a combination of those two is if the runner comes off the base, was the runner still being tagged at that point? For all of these, the best place to stand to tell when the runner hits the base is directly in between the runner and the base. So if the runner's coming from first base, then we want to be standing right here, because we can look and see directly exactly when the runner touches this base. But for the tag play, what's most important is seeing the daylight in between the fielder and the runner. So for this purpose, being in between the fielder and the runner is important. So if the ball is at the second baseman here, and the runner's trying to slide in over here, then we want to be about there, so we can see right in between this tag. For these, angle is more important than distance. If you have to choose between angle and distance, you pick angle. If I'm standing right behind the second baseman, but I'm standing literally behind him, I can't see whether the tag is being made. If I'm all the way on the other side of the diamond, but I'm standing at the right angle, there's a decent chance I'll get it right. The final safe out call that we're going to talk about is the force play. Most of the time you'll see these at first base, so we're going to talk about them over there. These principles apply to every force play. So you'll usually be calling plays from first base from over here. Now the ball is probably going to be hit to an infielder, so ground ball, say to the second baseman. We're going to find a 90-degree angle between the fielder and the base. So if the fielder's here, then we want to take 90 degrees. That's going to put us about here. We want to see the ball come into the first baseman's glove, except that we don't, because that's not what we're looking at. We're taking a 90-degree angle so we don't get hit in the back of the head by the baseball. We're just trying to get out of the way. And the thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at the base. We're going to bore our eyes into first base, and we're going to look for the runner hitting the bag. And we're going to listen for the ball hitting the first baseman's mitt. And before we make our decision, we're going to look at the first baseman to make sure that they in fact caught the ball and didn't bobble it or drop it. The final set of decisions that an umpire has to make that we're going to cover right now is ball or strike. This is the hardest call to make. You're going to have to make it about 150 times every time you step behind the plate, and you're going to get it wrong sometimes. On Twitter, you will see many umpiring scorecards or report cards, and you'll notice that even the best get it wrong 1 in 20 times. That's a lot. That's a lot of times. So even at our level, we're expecting to get it wrong a lot. So the correct positioning for this. This is part of our playbook. The correct positioning is behind the catcher. We want to be close to the catcher by what's called the heel-toe principle. You're going to put your toe of your left foot or on the inside part of the batter. So here we have a right-handed batter. They'll be standing here. So our left foot is going to line up the toe with the back of the catcher's heels. And then our right toe is going to line up with the back of our left heel. This lets our body be far enough away from the catcher so that if they stand up quickly, they're not going to just destroy us. As well as be close enough that we can see over the catcher. Your chest should be pointed towards home plate, and you need to keep a straight back. You're going to be squatting like this 300 times over the course of an afternoon. It's going to hurt if you don't do it right. What you do with your hands is you put your left hand behind your knee, and your right hand you put wherever. It's important that you don't brace your hands on anything, because that's a great way to get crushed fingers if a ball comes back and hits you. You're going to put your head beside the catcher, and you're going to put your chin at the top of the catcher's head. From here, you should be able to see home plate, the pitcher, and the catcher's mitt. These are the three important things. You're not going to get into this position until the pitcher starts his motion. Once the pitcher starts his motion, then you place your feet correctly. After a certain amount of time, this is going to become automatic. You squat, and you follow the ball from the pitcher's hand all the way to the catcher's mitt. Every single bit of this is important. And then you're going to make your decision on whether or not it's a ball or a strike. The strike zone is in here somewhere, and it's important. You should know the strike zone like the back of your hand. I will find a picture of it. There we go. So the strike zone is shown here. Halfway, the top of the strike zone is halfway between the top of the shoulders and the top of the pants. This is usually about the bottom of the letters. This is a lot higher than most umpires call their strike zone, but rulebook, these are strikes. Bottom of the zone is the hollow beneath the kneecap. So you're going to take your kneecap, take the bottom of your kneecap, and that's about the bottom of your strike zone. If any part of the ball touches any part of the strike zone, it's a strike. Let me repeat that. Any part of the ball touches any part of the zone, it's a strike. It doesn't have to be entirely in the zone. It doesn't have to be mostly in the zone. Any part of it calls that is a strike. So here we have a baseball that's probably just under the armpits, but it touches the midpoint between the belt and the shoulders. And according to the rule book, that's a strike. In practice, at the top part of the zone, you're going to call balls that fall almost entirely under this point in the strike zone. For the bottom of the zone, however, it is very important that you call balls that just touch the zone. Calling the bottom of the zone is extremely difficult because it's the part farthest away from your eyes. For this, there is a trick to use, which is not 100%, but can be used if you're feeling iffy. Watch the catcher's glove. If the glove flips over, it's a ball. If they manage to catch it straight in, that's usually a strike. The final thing to note when you're looking at a ball or a strike is to keep your head still. Follow the ball only with your eyes. This is important because if you move your head, you move where you think the strike zone is relative to you. And keeping track of that and a moving baseball all at the same time is hard and damn near impossible. We're going to make it as easy as possible for ourselves and keep our heads perfectly still. Follow the ball exclusively with your eyes. Do not blink when the batter touches the ball or swings. Don't turn your head away when that happens, because if you're wearing a mask, which you should be, then you'll notice the side of your head's exposed. Take balls to the face. That's what it's designed to do. Okay, so then, having covered how we decide all of these things, now it's time to make the call. Making the call is done with hand signals and verbal signals. Getting all of these right and loud and clear is important. Loud and clear are the big things there. If people can't understand you, they don't know what you called. If people can't hear you, they think you didn't call anything. The only exception to this is calling a fair ball. For a fair ball, you don't say anything, not a word. You just point into fair territory. If it's close, you point a lot and vigorously. For the foul ball, you call foul loudly. Multiple times if you need to. Foul, foul. Big call. And you throw both of your hands up in the air. If you need to exaggerate the motion, do it twice, do it big. The foul ball call, visually, is the same as the timeout call. This is because a foul ball makes the ball dead, and so no play can start after that. Calling a runner safe is done by throwing your arms out sideways. This should start at the chest. So it's not just throwing your arm out and T-posing. It's start with your hands at your chest and bring them out to your sides. If you need to do it louder for a close play, which you should. Do it multiple times vigorously. Calling this verbally is always safe or he's safe. If you want to emphasize it or emphasize why, then you can say off the bag or missed the tag, etc. For an out, the standard sign is what's shown on screen. It's a fist. Start the fist by the side of your head, bring it up until your arms are at a right angle. Be sure you're still while making each and every one of these calls. It gives the impression that you're planted and sure of yourself, and also running around with a fist in the air it just looks dumb, which is the last thing you want to look as an umpire. It harms your credibility. So this is for a basic out call. If it's close, punch him out. Nice big punching motion. Rear back your fist, make a big punch, swing the leg around, and make the out call nice and loud. He's out. For a catch, no catch, then you can say that's a catch or no catch. The signs stay the same, though. And now we go to balls and strikes. For balls, there is no sign. You stay down, you call ball just loud enough for the batter and the catcher to hear. If it's ball 4, then you say ball 4. For a called strike, which means the batter doesn't swing, you yell strike. Everyone should be able to hear this. The center fielder needs to be able to hear it. Your mom back home needs to be able to hear it. Nice and loud. Strike! And you make the out sign with your fist. If it's called strike 3, then you need to make it bigger. Strike 3. Very, very loud. And the classic is starting the lawnmower. You start with your fists together, and you pull them out separated from each other. This is the one where you have the most leeway as an umpire. You can do whatever you want with this one as long as there's a fist involved. For any swinging strikes, you don't say anything out loud. You just make the strike call. Just make the strike signal, but you don't say anything out loud. Everybody saw them swing, they know. There's one last thing to cover here, and that's a foul tip. A foul tip is a ball that's been tipped by the batter, but it's caught directly by the catcher. So this is a ball where the only indication you have that the batter even touched the ball is you can hear it. Those are foul tips. Those are counted essentially as just strikes in the rulebook. They're a live ball. They count as a strike even for strike 3. But you do have to signal that it was a foul tip. So again, because the batter swung, doesn't need any vocalization. You don't say anything. You just brush your one of your hands against the back of the other hand. So usually the right hand against the back of the left hand a few times if necessary. And then you make the strike sign. It's important that you don't say foul tip here because people are going to hear foul ball. And if they hear foul ball, then they think the play is dead, which is incorrect. The play is not dead. It is live. For a dropped third strike, so after third strike, in order for the batter to be automatically out, the ball needs to be caught. For a dropped third strike, you can't make the out sign. The batter is not out yet. The ball has touched the ground. Here there are a few options for what you can do with your hands. One of them is to make the safe sign. One of them is to point down to first base. And one of them is just to do nothing. But if the pitch is dropped, you still have to make the same vocalization as you did otherwise. So if it's a called strike 3, you do call strike 3. If it's a swinging strike 3, then you don't say anything. This is one of those situations where if the batters or catcher or players don't know what's going on, you just stare at them until they do. That's going to be that's going to happen a few different times. So having covered deciding the plays and calling the plays, it's now time for running the game. Running the game is done in several different ways. The first thing you need to do is prep. Before the game, prep. Make sure you have all the equipment that you need to bring yourself. Make sure you know when the game is, where the game is, who's playing it, who your partner is, etc. Just know the basic facts about the game. Then, show up to the game an hour ahead of time. Talk to your partner. Talk to both head coaches. Make sure they know you're there. Make sure everything's on course for starting on time. Take a walk around the field. Look for any holes in the fences, anything like that that might make the game interesting. Make sure you know the field rules. You have an hour, prep for it. Show up in clothes that you would not go drinking in. These should be relatively nice sports clothes. And by that I mean don't have dirt on your shit when you get in. Looking better, looking more professional will help your case later. If people have a bad first impression of an umpire, they're going to argue with you more. Then the final thing you do pregame is 5 minutes before the game is supposed to start, you call in both head coaches at home plate and you hold the home plate conference. At the home plate conference, you should get the lineups from both coaches. You should go over all of the field rules, and you should make sure that you know what the ending criteria of the game is. How many innings, what's the time limit, what's the mercy rule. In our division, that's 9 innings, and the mercy rule is 20 runs after 5 innings or 10 after 7. And the time limit is 3 hours. You don't start a new inning after 2 hours and 50 minutes, but you always finish the inning you're in. Then it comes time to say play ball. You should have baseballs on you. So one of your pieces of equipment is a ball bag, and you should have a good number of game balls inside it. The game balls that we use are Wilson A1030s, and they have the stamp of the league on them. This is really important. They should not be discolored, and they shouldn't be scuffed. Like, minor amounts of discoloration and scuffing are good, or not good, but okay later in the game, but it should not be the case for the start of the game. The first pitch of the game always needs to be with a brand new baseball. So then it comes time to yell play ball. Anytime you need to put the ball in play, which is after every single time you make the ball dead and also at the start of the game, you make the play ball sign. The play ball sign is as follows. You point to the pitcher vigorously and you yell play. Not play ball, just play. You do this every single time there's a foul ball. Anytime the ball is dead, you call play. Before you do this, the pitcher needs to be in their position, touching the rubber, and every base runner and batter needs to be ready. Once you say play, the pitcher should pitch within the next 5 seconds or so. Like, everything needs to be ready for that to happen. Calling time is also a thing you're going to have to do as the umpire. Anytime a player asks for time, if it's reasonable, you grant it, and you call time. You make the time sign, which is the same as the foul sign. Throw both your hands up into the air. If your fellow umpire does this, you should also call time. Make sure everybody knows that the ball is dead. Do not call time when there's a play going on. If there's a play happening, don't do it. I know it's tempting, don't do it. Which means you also have to be aware of when the hidden ball trick is happening. You have to know when runners are places where they shouldn't be, when the ball is not with the pitcher, etc. Follow the ball always. Another thing you have to deal with is substitutions. You will have the official lineups for each team, and coaches will come to you to announce substitutions. They should do so by asking for time, which you will grant, and then they will come over to you, and you will bring them over to the scorer so that substitutions can be made. You should know the substitution rules so you can point out when things aren't allowed, and make sure that the scorer has plenty of time to make sure that everything is all set before you start play again. They're your friend. Treat them like it. Now, dealing with coaches and players is a thing that you're going to have to do. which means that you'll have to shut down questions when they come in. You have to give players warnings when they need them and eject them when necessary. The goal is to keep everybody in the game, but that's secondary to having a good game. So if you need to eject somebody, don't hesitate, do it. Likewise, don't give any ultimatums you aren't prepared to follow through on. If you say one more word and I'll eject you, and they say another word, you have to eject them now. Otherwise, your credibility is gone for this game and also the next one. Dealing with coaches and players shouldn't be super unfriendly. When you're with the Twins, you're probably going to be umpiring one of our home games, so you'll have a bunch of guys that you know on one sideline and a bunch of guys you don't on the other. Treat us both the same. Treat the home team and the away team with the exact same amount of respect and friendliness. If you show more friendliness to us because you know us than the other guys, then you're going to be seen as partisan whether you are or not. Just try to be as neutral as possible. It's not going to be 100% possible, but you have to do as much as you can. No in-jokes, no hanging around with us before the game. Just go in there, do your job, and once the game is over, then you get to come have a drink. Important questions that players and coaches are not allowed to ask you. They are not allowed to argue with you about balls and strikes. They are allowed to ask you where you thought that pitch was, or why you called a pitch a strike, but they are not allowed to argue. One question per pitch, at most, and that's it. After that, one warning, and then an ejection. This goes for any judgment call. You call somebody safe or out, you call a ball fair or foul, no arguing, just acceptance. If they argue it, you explain why, you warn, you eject. Then the second to last thing with running the game is the weather. Sometimes the weather is just going to be against you. For rain, that means just drizzle is usually fine, but once it becomes dangerous, there's mud anywhere, stop the game. Once you have stopped the game because of rain, you have to wait for it to stop raining completely in order to put it in play again. For heat, this is very much a judgment call. If you have to make extra timeouts happen in order to make the game playable, do that. So for heat, that means if a half inning takes a long time, call time, get the team that's out there some water. For rain, that means allowing the pitcher to have a towel with him to dry off the baseball. If you have to just make a concession to make the game playable, do so. Once the game's over, you call a ball game. Loud. Everybody needs to know that the game is over. Then you go over to the scorecard. You sign each scorecard or sign each remark as it may happen. And then you're done. Get yourself a drink. You earned it. So then, because you'll be working with two people, the last thing is to define what each person's job is. Before the game, you'll both get there at the same time, and you get to talk over any specifics that you may want to cover before the game, but it's not going to cover everything. Here I'm going to show you guys the standard system for doing things, but if you need to make an alteration because of who your partner is or who you are, then that's okay. You just have to discuss it with them ahead of time. The home plate umpire for each play always sets up behind the catcher. We're going to denote them as plate umpire, or PU. The base umpire, or BU, is going to set up in a few different positions depending on the situation. With no runners, they're going to set up in position A. Position A is behind first base, in foul territory, and most importantly, behind the first baseman. So if we have the first baseman here, our umpire needs to be behind them this way. The idea is if there is a pop-up, you need to be able to see them out of the corner of your eye coming so that you can get out of the way. Then, with runners on, except for a single situation, you go to position B. If there's runners on base and you have any doubts, you go to position B. This is halfway between the mound and second base, and in theory, lined up with the outside of the mound. So this should line up exactly with the plate. That's not going to be able to happen because we don't have a full mound. So then the goal is just between the pitcher and second base, so you can see home plate, but also not in front of the second baseman. If the second baseman asks you to take a step, do it. You can move left or right, no problem. Position C, it happens when there is a runner on second, but nobody on third base. The only reason we come over here is so that we can watch the steal to third base. So if there's no chance of a steal of third, we're in position B. If there are no base runners, we're in position A. Dividing up jobs is not super difficult. The plate umpire always has fair foul down the third baseline. So if it goes down this way and fair foul needs to be called, it's the plate umpire's job to do that. Down the first baseline, up until the base. So if it hits the base, then that's the plate umpire's call. If it stops before, it's the plate umpire's call. Behind first base, on the first base side, if the base umpire is in position A, it's their call. In all other situations, it's the plate umpire's call. With that out of the way, balls and strikes are always the plate umpire's call, obviously. However, there is one thing that the plate umpire can ask of the base umpire, and that is whether or not the batter swung. They'll do that by pointing at the base umpire and going, "Did he go?" Then the base umpire makes either the safe sign or the out sign, saying, "Yes, he did," or "No, he didn't." This can happen in any position, so be aware of that. Finally, let's see here. Finally, for safe out calls, the base umpire has every call at first base and at second base, with only a few exceptions that we're not going to cover here. The plate umpire has home plate, and third base is iffy. If the base umpire can get to it, they have it. Otherwise, the home plate umpire will come back them up. For fly balls in the infield, it's whoever has the best view on it. Usually that's the plate umpire. For fly balls in the outfield, we're going to draw a line through where the left fielder stands and through where the right fielder stands and through where the center fielder stands. So if our base umpire is in A, then it's divided right up the middle. Fly ball goes to the right, it's for the base umpire. Fly ball goes to the left of the center fielder, it's for the plate umpire. If the base umpire is in B or C, so up the middle of the diamond, then we're going to draw our lines here. If it's up the middle, it's for our base umpire. If it's down the lines, it's for the plate umpire. Work. So those are all of the divisions of responsibilities. Everything else, so things like calling time, saying when a ball is out of play, calling balks, etc., those are all shared duties. Whoever sees it, calls it. Same thing with infield fly. Now, you two are a team, so help each other out. In between innings, go to talk to each other. Make sure that everybody's doing okay. See whether you missed something, see whether you're not. If you miss a play, call time, talk to your fellow umpire, see whether they saw it. Maybe they'll help you out. If they can't, then you didn't see it, so you can't call it. Let's see. Also, throughout, in between each hitter, signal to your fellow umpire how many outs there are. You do that at your side. So here, with no outs, you signal with a fist, with one out, with one finger, and 2 outs, 2 fingers. Also, if you don't know what the count is, both umpires should keep track of the count. You can ask for it. Just rub your knuckles across your chest. That asks for the count. And the count will be given with balls in the left hand and strikes in the right. Finally, if you're signaling the outs to each other and there is an infield fly situation, so the infield fly rule is in effect, which means first and second are occupied and there are less than 2 outs, then you signal 1 or 2 outs, 0 or 1 outs on your cap. So for 0 outs, you touch your cap with your flat hand, and with 1 out, you touch it with just one finger. Now, sometimes you'll have to do it alone, but we'll try and do our best to not do that. What that's going to mean is you're going to set up behind home plate, and you're going to call everything, which means that once the ball is hit, you're going to sprint out to the middle of the diamond, right about here, and you're going to let the ball take you to the play, which means that once the ball is clearly going towards first base or towards second base or towards third base, you do that. Now, umpiring equipment. Let's see. Yeah. So umpiring equipment, there's a few things you need. At our level, you're going to need an indicator, which the team can grant you, a cup, shin guards, chest protector, mask, a brush, clothing that's not in Twins colors. This is important. You're not going to have an official uniform, but you will have to show up in a t-shirt and cap that are not blue and red. Long pants and a belt. Nothing looks... as the plate umpire, you can't wear short pants because you have to put shin guards over them, and that's going to dig in and hurt after like an hour otherwise. You need a belt to put the ball bags on, and that doesn't work without one. If you're in the field, you just need an indicator, a cup, and clothing not in Twins colors. An indicator looks like this. It shows you strikes, balls, outs, and the innings. You hold it in your left hand, and you can just click it every time you make a call, or your partner makes a call. A brush looks like that. Anytime the plate's dirty, brush it off. Before each half inning, brush it off. Ball bags just carry baseballs. If you need more baseballs, signal to the home team that you need baseballs. They'll bring it to you in between pitches. Now, there are a bunch of rules that you should know before umpiring, but the ones that we've covered already, so safe out, fair foul, ball strike, will let you cover 99% of every play ever. All the other rules are just for the 1% of chances. You can read about all of them in the playbook, and beyond that, the playbook references some other outside sources, which you can get to for more of that. Are there any of them that you want me to cover right now? If so, put them in the chat while I grab a drink. Okay, if something shows up, then I will get back to it. But for now, we're going to take a look at an inning or two of a baseball game, and we're just going to focus solely on the umpires. This is an old World Baseball Classic game
that
from
features all 4 pitches.
And the first thing to notice is right there, the strike one call. So before this, while the camera is away, the umpire makes the play call, then gets into position, goes right down the middle, and calls it a strike. This is a nice big motion, and he's going to do the same thing for every single strike. So you'll notice before the pitch, the umpire is not quite set. They're down, but their hands are on their knees. And once the pitch comes in, they're going to get low into the right position. You can even see that he checks where the catcher is before the pitch. So he looks down, checks where the catcher is, comes down to the correct spot, and then here our base umpire is in the correct spot to make the call, and they're going to make the out sign. So again, makes the call, out. Again, always proportional to how close the call is. And are they going to show us the call? No. So here, we have our next hitter up. Umpires always focused. Moves over with the catcher so they can hide behind him. And that's inside. Stays down, moves the head away, calls ball. I don't recommend moving the head away at our level because there aren't enough other umpires to watch the field while you do that. Get set, watches the ball in there, and here, again, our base umpire is set up 90 degrees away from where the play is happening, and they're going to make a call well after the runner leaves because it's just not that important. For every call you make, take it nice and easy. Decide, then make the call. Always in that order, never at the same time. It's going to feel like you have to make a call quick, but you have 2 whole seconds in between every call. Use it. Here, a fly ball down the right field line. Our base umpire is going to follow it over just to make sure that it doesn't get caught, and then go back to his position. Here's a ball up the middle, and it's going to stay up the middle. And so you'll notice our umpires are going to follow the base runner around. There's nobody else doing anything, so they're just going to follow them around to make sure that they're at the place where the call can be made. So here, in our situation, we would have an umpire move up to position B. There was a runner on first base. There is no chance of a steal at third. So we're going to move to position B. Here they're going to have 4 umpires, so they're not going to do that. They're going to have their second base umpire move in. So here we have a little dribbler. And again, 90 degrees. Waits a long time with that call because the camera cuts away before it even happens. So you see that in a professional setting, umpires do everything the same way every time. In our setting, it's a little less important to do everything exactly the same way, but it should be loud, clear, and very, very similar every time. If you say out a certain way and you make a punch a certain way, keep it that way. Don't adjust it every single time you do things. There is definitely a lot more things to cover, and we could go over rules now, but that could take another hour, and honestly, it's easier to just read them and ask questions after. So if anybody has questions already, let me know. And otherwise, I think we're done. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but I'll hang around for another 5 minutes or so, and then I'll cut the stream. You also know where to find me if you have questions after the fact, but the easiest way to learn umpiring is just to do it and get feedback after. So once you've gotten this down, then you can get started. That's what the goal is here. So I will see you all at practice. Goodbye.